Hi everyone, welcome back to this ongoing Rusteroids tutorial series. Last week we added in a sound manager to play sounds. This week we're going to modify the sound manager to play looped sounds. You may have noticed last week, I admit I did not until after the video was posted, that there was a compiler warning. So before checking that the code runs, we need to modify the code to remove this. The code is where we added the loop to play sound cues. So we need to remove the mute keyword from in front of our cues variable, and we change the write storage function to read storage instead. Then we rebuild using cargo run, and we wait for it to rebuild, this time without compiler warnings. And we should see this. The game should run and we get a sound every time we press the spacebar. If you don't have the code at this point, you can do git checkout tutorial 18. The first thing we want to do is copy across the thruster.og file from the repository into the sounds.fx folder. Then inside the sounds folder, we'll make a new folder called music. And we will copy the file Rusteroids music short og into this folder. Next up, we're going to navigate to cargo.toml. And we're going to change the version of Kira from 0.6.0 to 0.7.0. Then we're going to navigate to the soundmanager.rs file, and we will copy the content of the new sound manager into this file. I hope to do an overview of this in another video, but for now we just need to know that when loading a sound, we need to specify whether it is to be looped using a Boolean value, and then we have some new methods, stop sound, resume sound, and start sound for looped sound files. Then we navigate to component.rs and scroll to the bottom of the file. Then we'll be inserting a new enum. We need to derive partial EQ, which stands for partial equality, which will allow us to compare values. Then we create our enum, not forgetting to make it public, and it will be called soundCueType and contain 3 values: play sound, loop sound, and stop sound. Inside the existing soundCue struct, we're going to add a new field called sc_type, because type is a reserved keyword, and the type of this is soundCueType. Don't forget the comma on the end of the line above. Then we navigate to game.rs and to the fire missile function, specifically the bit where we create the new sound cue for the missile sound. And in this call to create entity, we need to populate the new field we've just added to the component of sctype with a value of components soundCueType play sound. Then we navigate back to main.rs and scroll to the top of the file. Here we're going to store the strings associated with the sound files in constant variables to save typing out the long file names each time. First, we create a const pointer to string for the music file name, and the value is sounds_music_rusteroidmusicshort.og. Then we create a const value for the thruster file name. The value is soundsfxthruster.og. And finally, we create a const for missile file name. The value for this is soundsfxmissile.og. Then we scroll down to where we load the sound for the missile, effectively caching it in memory. And we can replace the hard-coded string with the const of missile file name. Because the function signature for load sound has changed when we updated the sound manager file, we also need to add false as a second argument. Then we will add calls to load the sounds for the music file name and thruster file name, remembering that both of these will be looped, so we set the second argument to true. Then we will scroll down to just above our running loop. And first we put in a comment to make it clear we're going to start the music playing. And then we call sound manager resume sound, passing in the music file name constant with toString to copy and pass ownership of the string to the function. Then we scroll down into our event loop handler. We're going to create handlers for the buttons O and P to turn the music off and on again, because short loops of music can get really annoying. And the music loop we have isn't terribly appropriate for the game. It's just a quick piece I threw together for demonstration purposes. So we will copy the event handler for the spacebar and paste it underneath. And we will change the key in the filter to be keycode P instead of keycode space. And if that is the case, we'll print a message, music paused. Then we will call the soundmanager.stopSound and pass in the music file name with toString on the end. Then we copy and paste that whole block and change the key code to the letter O. Update the message to say the music is restarted. And change stopped sound to resume sound. We then scroll down to the code which handles the processing of the sound cues. And in here, we need to filter the response based on the sound cue type that we've just added. So we put an if statement to check if the sound cue type is play sound. And we cut and paste the previous call to soundmanager.playSound into this. Then we call else if and filter for the sound cue type being loop sound. And if it is, then we will call soundmanager.resumeSound, passing in the file name variable to string. And finally, we add an else if to check if the sound cue type is stop sound. And if it is, then we call soundmanager.stopSound, also passing in the file name variable to string. And then we go back to gain.rs, and we change the hard-coded string for the missile sound file name to the constant we created at the crate level. Then we scroll up to the block which handles the key input for the player, and we create a new mutable variable called thrusterPushed and set the initial value to false. If either the D or A key is pressed, then we set thrusterPushed equal to true. Scrolling down a bit, we can see the entire handler for if the W key is pressed. And here we set thrusterPushed equal to true as well. Then we scroll down to the bottom of the function, and just above the check for if must fire missile, we check if thrusterPushed is true. And if it is, then we create a new entity with a sound cue value of thruster file name and a sound cue type of loop sound. With build on the end to finalize it. And we add an else, and inside that else we create a new entity. We add a component type of sound cue, this time setting the sound cue type to be stop sound. And .build on the end to finalize it. And we call cargo run. We can see there's an error in main.rs, so we go back there. And we can see I put an extra colon in the first check of the sound cue type, so we remove that. Running cargo run, we can see that there is a long period with a white screen. This is because we're loading all of the audio into memory. We will do something about this in a later video. But then, when it gets to the main loop, we can see the game as we'd expect. It plays the music and makes the thruster noise when we move. We can try toggling the music to see that control works as well. And there we have it. We now have a way of queuing up long-running sounds and passing them through the sound cue mechanism, as well as toggling music. If you've enjoyed this video, or if you have any comments, please leave them in the comments section below. If you'd like to, please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to be notified when the next one is out. For now though, I'll wish you a good day, hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.